Come on, man. Come on.
He's cold.
No, there it is. Now it's coming on. Now it's coming on. Where's Stacy? Yeah, it is. I'm worried about it. Would you step back here?
Months ago.
We're all getting audits tomorrow.
We are.
We're all getting audits tomorrow.
Mic test, 1, 2, 3.
I think I'm good. I mean, I'd find another student. Oh, there's okay. There's a guy out there. That's pretty. That's pretty big. I mean,
On time.
good to see you.
This has been an important issue. It's been for my whole family.
I told her.
Yes.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. If I could have your attention, welcome. My name is John Vinson, CEO of the Arkansas Pharmacists Association here in Little Rock, and we have some news today to share with you. Just as a reminder, we have a room full of patients, student pharmacists, advocates for patients in Arkansas, and as a reminder, the state of Arkansas has been very innovative and very on the forefront of healthcare reform over the last decade or so, especially in the area of pharmacy healthcare delivery, in the area of reforming and protecting patients from pharmacy benefit managers. We have an announcement to make today about that. I want to first introduce Representative Jeremiah Moore to bring some more details about that, and we will get this show kicked off. Welcome, Representative Moore. Give him a warm welcome.
Thank you all for being here today. My name is Jeremiah Moore. I represent District 61. It covers the southeast third of Jackson County, all of Woodruff County, the eastern third of Prairie County, a little over half of Monroe County, and most of Arkansas County. I don't know for sure, but I think I may represent more independent pharmacies than any other House member in the legislature. For far too long, pharmacy benefit managers have rigged the system to enrich their own interest at the expense of the patient. It is well documented by the Federal Trade Commission that PBMs are steering patients to their company-owned pharmacies by reimbursing their competitors, the neighborhood pharmacies, at rates below cost. It is crony capitalism at best and outright corruption at worst. I have filed House Bill 1150 so that Arkansas will lead the nation in protecting patients and access to care while fighting anti-competitive practices in our healthcare system. I have dear friends, one of whom was a groomsman in my wedding, that have had to consider selling their family-owned business due to the anti-competitive practices in the current environment. They have continually endured taking losses on sales to patients because they actively give a damn about the care they give compared to the dollars that they receive. If the same were true about PBM-owned pharmacies, they wouldn't be reimbursing themselves at up to 1,000% above cost. These are not isolated incidents, but are prevalent statewide. Your neighborhood pharmacies are closing at a rapid pace, and the pharmacy benefit managers are currently benefiting no one but themselves. If they had it their way, Arkansas patients would be forced to get their medications from either a mail-order pharmacy or a big box store such as CVS. As someone who represents a dozen pharmacies in his House district, not one being a CVS, this is untenable. As a member of the General Assembly of the proud state of Arkansas, it is our utmost responsibility to protect Arkansan patients and prohibit such egregious actions. We will bring justice and we will ensure access to care. The PBMs are currently setting the reimbursement rates for the direct competitors while reimbursing themselves at a higher rate. Today, we will take a step in setting the market straight by saying that if you want to operate in Arkansas as a pharmacy benefit manager, you must stay in your lane. Leave the medication dispensing to the small businesses that actually care. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Moore. And next, the Attorney General of the great state of Arkansas, Tim Griffin. Give him a warm welcome.
Thank you. I just want to start by telling a little personal story. So I've been in the military for 28 years, and that's how I get my insurance. If you're a reservist, if you're a Guard member, you get a really good deal on health insurance. And we are wedded to that plan, like a lot of service members are here in the state. Now, a few years ago, my pharmacist said, starting on an upcoming date, you will no longer be able to get your prescriptions here through your insurance because we're going to be out of network starting on a particular day. I said, oh God, okay, we've developed relationships with the pharmacist and it's close to our house, but okay, this happens, we'll figure this out. Now all the while, we're getting bombarded at home with Joint Express scripts. Joint Express scripts. You can do this all by mail order. At the same time, we're losing our pharmacy, right? So then I call some of the people in the room and I'm like, where can I go? And one of the pharmacists, who I think is in the room somewhere, said, look, you're out of network with me, but I think we can patch it together with some generics and this and that, where we won't lose that much money. And, you could, and I said, I don't want to do that. I need to find someone in network. So we found someone in network right down the street, and we've developed an amazing relationship with this lady, Pat. She's amazing, you know her. She has things delivered to everybody. She's like the neighborhood advisor, and she's just awesome. And she's so awesome that my wife and I often say, I don't know what we would do without Pat. She just goes the extra mile. And we've talked about one day she's going to retire, maybe sell the pharmacy. And I said, no, you're not. You're going to do this for a long, long time. We need you. Well, Pat told me about, I don't know, maybe it was 2-3 weeks ago, over the holidays. It was a great Christmas, Christmas surprise. You're going to be out of network on January 1, I think it was, whatever the date was. You're going to be out of network. And I go, again? All the while getting bombarded with, we can mail order you these. We can mail order you these. I've been so frustrated with the PBMs on this that I called a guy named Buddy Carter. He's a congressman from Georgia who's working on this issue, particularly as it relates to veterans. I say all this to say this is an ongoing problem. And I have a letter drafted to members of Congress, including Buddy, and Buddy's going to be in a really key position on the House Commerce Committee in the U.S. House of Representatives, and there's some others. There's a good Senate bill on this. But the problem is vertical integration, where the PBMs are distributing the drugs and they're also the retailer. Because what they want to do is give their retail outlets a better deal than the folks that are not part of their company. And so I have called on and talked to Buddy about this. I'm working on the letter now, calling on Congress to prohibit PBMs from owning retail pharmacies. Those are roles that need to be separated. And, that would be amazing to have a national solution. But I applaud what's happening here to do what we can. And look, there's a lot of ideas, I think, hey, that's great, but can I defend it? We've looked at this. We believe, yes, we can defend this. And so I think this idea of prohibiting PBMs from having retail pharmacies and doing all of these things under one company, I think prohibiting that's a good idea. And I applaud what these folks are doing. I believe we could defend it. And I believe it's another good step toward reining these folks in. And I believe it's part of the discussion. It raises the heat, increases the discussion around this issue. So maybe we can get some federal action as well. Thank you all so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. And next we have Senator Kim Hammer from the Benton area, Saline County. Welcome, Senator Hammer, Senate sponsor.
Thank you, John. I'll keep my comments brief and short. Not all PBMs are bad. This bill does not address those that are operating in the fairest of business practices, that are trying to be good players and good partners within our healthcare system. But what this bill does do is address those that have monopolized an arrangement to where they are able to pay themselves more than they are these folks standing behind me. And as a result of that, it is time for us to intervene as lawmakers and step in and level the playing field so that those that want to be good contributors to the overall cost of health care are given the advantage in order to help these individuals behind us. We want to take care of the good ones, just like we want to take care of all the good individual actors in any aspect or any arena. But for those that have created a monopoly that are able to self-serve in order to put people like those standing behind me out of business, we are stepping forward as legislators, and I appreciate very much our Attorney General stepping forward and also helping us on this so that we can be a leader in the nation as far as taking care of our citizens. And we hope that all citizens across every state in this country are taking care of the way that we're trying to take care of Arkansans, especially those that are in our local communities. I'll say this in conclusion. You are looking at a senator that had the experience of one of the largest, if not at the time, the largest pharmacy closed down in his district in a significantly large city. But it doesn't really matter whether it's in a large city, a medium-sized city, or as we've experienced in the rural area. We want access to care for all people in all four corners of our state and everyone in between. If we look 20 years down the road, if we don't do something today, a lot of these people standing behind me will not be here. And then who's going to take care of our families, and who's going to be there after hours in order to take care of the needs of those that we love? It's bigger than the moment. It is giving life to the future 20 years down the road, and that's why we're going to take action today. Thank you.
Just real quick, as a point of privilege on the examples he gave about PBMs owning their own pharmacies, both retail and through the mail. We discovered this in the legislature passed legislation in 2015 when we saw examples of this. Act 900 was that law. That law was defended to the U.S. Supreme Court by now Lieutenant Governor Leslie Rutledge, who was our Attorney General at the time. Thank you for being here. Give her a warm welcome. Thank you. That practice is still happening, though. I mean, we have tried to address it. It's tricky and difficult because of federal plans, state plans. It's a complicated issue. This legislation will help to end that practice. We do have a poster board up here with one of the most extreme examples. The Federal Trade Commission, the U.S. House Oversight Committee, the Wall Street Journal, New York Times. There's bicameral, bipartisan support in Congress. I think there is the same in Arkansas to end this. But on this example, a patient with leukemia was being charged $19,200 for their leukemia drug at a pharmacy owned by the PBM through the mail, and they tried to steer patients to that option, where that same drug at the people you see behind me would have been $97. And you may think, oh, that's just one unusual example, or cherry picking, if you will. No, they found that there were $1.5 billion of overcharges in federal programs and employer programs because they've made the system Byzantine. They've made it impossible and opaque to understand for the average employer and the average patient, and consumers are being ripped off. So this bill would end that practice. With that, I would like to introduce our next speaker, a personal friend of mine who is a state legislator, is a pharmacist, but is also a patient. And he has some very interesting information to share. I cannot wait to hear what he has to say. So without further ado, pharmacist Dr. Brandon Aker and State Representative, welcome to the stage.
Thank you all for being here today, and I'm just honored to be a part of all of the efforts that have been championed long before me and the ones ongoing now. As John said, serving as a legislator and a practicing pharmacist and a small business partner to a dozen rural communities across the state of Arkansas, I'm exposed on a daily basis to the dire need for RX reform in our state. In addition, I also stand on the other side of the pharmacy counter as a patient. I'm a recent cancer survivor, and as many of you may know, my wife currently is in her battle for cancer. A battle where every Tuesday morning we spend at Cards High receiving infusions of the same very drugs that the Federal Trade Commission says that PBMs are marking up to the tune of thousands of % in profits to themselves. I see and I feel the abuse of vertically integrated healthcare on a daily basis. The intentional and systemic violations of Arkansas law for almost a decade has robbed the entire healthcare system, from employer payers to providers to patients. This behavior is not only no longer tolerated, it has not been forgotten. The tangible threat to Arkansas patients, Arkansas businesses, and Arkansas families ends now. And I am honored to be a part of the team here to tip the first domino in what will be a series of sweeping RX reform in the state of Arkansas for the betterment of Arkansas patients. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Aker. Next, I would like to introduce the executive director, or starter, if you will, runs a national patient advocacy organization, Unite for Safe Medications. Mother, patient, can't wait to hear what she has to say as well. Give a warm welcome to Loretta Boasting.
Hi, my name is Loretta Bosing, and I'm the founder of Unite for Safe Medications. It's an advocacy group for patients who are being harmed by the unfair business practices of pharmacy benefit managers. My experience as the mother of a transplant patient has shown how the self-dealing and anti-competitive business practices of PBMs directly affect patient care. PBMs have caused drug prices to rise to unaffordable and unsustainable levels. And they have reduced access to quality of patients' care by running our local pharmacies out of business. I founded Unite for Safe Medications after my child's life was risked by mail-order pharmacy, and we were forced to use them. My son, he's a courageous transplant survivor. Prior, he was a healthy 2-year-old until he got the flu, and our lives have forever changed. Now his survival will forever rely on medications every 12 hours. One day when we were forced away from our trusted pharmacy into mail-order pharmacy, it was CVS Specialty Pharmacy. The so-called benefits of the mail-order pharmacy ended up being nothing more than a money grab. To extract profits from the sickest of patients like my son, PBM's mail-order pharmacies, they operate with minimal oversight, leading to dangerous delays, interruptions in treatment, and damaged medications. I found out that PBMs not only oversee their competitors' reimbursements through my advocacy, but they also oversee their own. I found out that CVS Caremark was reimbursing its own pharmacy many more times, their mail-order pharmacy many more times than my local pharmacy. And that was just for the 2 months that they allowed us to use the local pharmacy. And that was all under the disguise of lower copay. This is not just a financial issue. This is a matter for patients like my son. It's an issue of life and death. And sadly, I found out that my family's story, my son's story, is not unique. The heartbreaking stories that I've heard are never-ending. Veterans suffering from mail-order delays. They're going without the medications needed to treat their mental and physical wounds obtained for fighting for our country. Adult and pediatric cancer patients are facing delays and interruptions in treatments that worsen their conditions, and all the while those same medications, they sit in our local pharmacies and the hospital pharmacies nearby, but the PBMs won't cover them unless they use the PBM-owned mail order. I have created a petition that now has over 230,000 supporters to stop the PBMs from forcing patients to their own mail order pharmacies. Today, I am asking you, anyone who's listening, please support this bill to ban PBMs from owning their own pharmacies in Arkansas. This is an important step to ensure better care for all patients. Please help us get this bill passed and tell your legislators to support PBM reform in Arkansas by signing the petition rxreformnow.com. Thank you so much to everyone supporting this.
Thank you, Loretta. In closing, I would like to just reiterate that the legislation, and we'll have time for questions too, but the legislation that was introduced would ban PBMs and insurance company-owned pharmacies. There are about 35 or 40 or so of those located in the state, and then there's another 100 or so that would be located in other states that would not be allowed to ship in. The reason I don't have an exact number is because the State Board of Pharmacy, who is not here today, but they would have the exact numbers, and it changes from day to day. But that's a rough estimate of how many pharmacies it would impact. There are roughly 740 pharmacies in the state, so for perspective, it gives you kind of an idea of what percent or how much of the existing pharmacies in the state that would impact. There are also about 600 mail-order pharmacies around the country that are licensed in the state. So it would not end all mail-order pharmacies. It would just end the ones that are vertically integrated from steering the patients to themselves and paying themselves at higher amounts, just to clarify. With that, I would like to invite any of the speakers that are here that might want to clarify or answer questions and open it up for the press. So thank you for being here, everyone. Senator Hammer? EMC. What questions do you have? Any? You good? Okay.
19,200, is that a local within state PBM?
It is a PBM. Well, Federal Trade Commission, yes. I'm not saying that exact claim was filled in Arkansas. I'm unsure. But from the Federal Trade Commission, yes, it would be one of the large pharmacy benefit managers that does also have pharmacies that are licensed in the state of Arkansas. So yes, sir. And I would say too, in that data from 2018, I think it's really good that our legislators are making decisions not based on emotion, but based on facts and information and data, rather than scare tactics, if that makes sense. I think it's really important that we make good decisions based on data. And the data that has been released in the last, I would say, 120 days, last 6 months or so, and all those national news outlets that I referred to, as well as the U.S. Federal Trade Commission and U.S. House Oversight Committee, Representative James Comer from Kentucky, and then also our Federal Trade Commission, is very supportive of data that we had uncovered 6 years ago in Arkansas. And in the data in Arkansas, we had looked at every drug in the top 200 drugs at the time, and in some of the plans, it was literally 100% of the time the reimbursement was higher at the PBM-owned pharmacy. So it wasn't just cherry picking or this drug or that drug, it was literally every single one. That's not happening in every single plan, but when it happens, it drives up the cost by billions of dollars. But anyway, thank you for that question. Rebecca?
Reveal the legislation about trying to clarify and actually going after the right person. So with this bill and more lawmakers on board, what makes this time different than previous?
So this legislation is, I'm really excited about it because the Attorney General feels confident that it's defendable, and it will also be, if it were to be challenged, that the state does have the right to do this. This is about the licensure of pharmacies, not about the licensure of PBMs. So the PBMs not only own a PBM and own a PBM license, but they also own a pharmacy license. And so this bill would make that practice where they're vertically integrated not allowed to happen. I would call it, and I think it's actually in the introduction of the bill, it is stopping the fox from guarding the henhouse. So if you know that old saying about there's something so tempting when you're in charge of it to then abuse it, that's what's happening. When you're setting the price and also taking the price, it's rough. It's too tempting to abuse it, and these national entities have found the same thing nationally that we found in Arkansas, which leads to this policy. I would also say, too, to Attorney General Griffin's point, Senator Hawley of Missouri, Senator Elizabeth Warren, Representative Jake Auchincloss from Massachusetts, and Representative Harshberger from Tennessee also has similar federal legislation introduced. Has not passed yet, but when it does, it will take some time before it's implemented. There are so many problems happening with the rising price of drugs and patients being abused. We can do something quicker here in Arkansas to protect Arkansans faster. But thank you for that question.
Just one more
Sure.
clarification on, is it all drugs they're doing a high reimbursement on, or just specialty drugs?
Yeah.
For cancer and other things?
So the drugs that the Federal Trade Commission has focused on in their reports are mainly specialty drugs. What I would caution against that, though, is specialty is not a well-defined term. Specialty is unilaterally defined by the PBMs who design the plans, set the prices, fill the prescriptions. It's not determined by patients or pharmacists. So the FTC roughly said drugs that cost $1,000 or more as their definition of what they are studying for the term specialty. But I would say that in Arkansas in 2018, we were seeing it in literally every drug, at least with one plan, not just specialty, generics, brands across the spectrum and specialty. And I would also say that if you look at the Wall Street Journal articles that have come out, the New York Times articles that have come out, the employers who are being ripped off are seeing it in all drugs. But to your point, or your question, the FTC reports was mainly in specialty drugs. Thank you for that question. Anyone else? Thank you to the media for being here today. Thank you to our lawmakers, friends, patients, Lieutenant Governor, Attorney General. We had a very nice crowd. I appreciate everything that the pharmacists, their staff, their student pharmacists, pharmacy technicians, community health workers do in their communities. Our local pharmacists are the backbone of healthcare. They are the most accessible healthcare provider in the nation, in the world, and in Arkansas. I just could not be more proud of them, and I want to see a healthy, vibrant market in the future. They're very resilient. They're innovative. They care and love for their community, but they're not, as my friend Doug Hoy said today at a national organization, they're not invincible. They need help for a free market to be able to compete to serve their patients. So thanks, everyone, for being here. Appreciate it.